Now, Chuck Todd is the dumbest guy in news. I'm just going to say it. Some people say Don Lemon. It's not. It's Chuck Todd. He is the dumbest guy in news. And that's why NBC has him as their lead news guy. Do you think they would hire a good news guy to be their lead guy? They hire a fucking corporate tool. They hired William Hurt in broadcast news. That's who Chuck Todd is. And watch Chuck Todd. Watch how he covers the Julian Assange thing. This is kind of amazing. You tell me if you see a contradiction.
Welcome back. Tonight I'm obsessed with reading between the lines, and I have a serious problem with what I'm seeing. On Thursday, the federal government indicted WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange on 17 counts of violating the Espionage Act. And among them, he's accused of, quote, disseminating classified materials. Disseminating classified materials. The DOJ clearly believes that's espionage. But in this case, it's not. It's journalism. And you know...
What? He got it right? The DOJ says that espionage, but it's not in this case. It's journalism. So he gets it. And in fact, he even makes a comparison to the Daniel Ellsberg. Watch this.
So the Supreme Court in 1971, when it ruled that both the New York Times and the Washington Post could publish the then classified Pentagon Papers. And...
Wow. So I'm like, oh, my God, there must have been a directive from the head of NBC News saying it's okay to tell the truth about Julian Assange for some reason. And I think it's because Donald Trump is the one doing it. So this is their way they can oppose Trump. But watch this. Watch this.
This is where what's between the lines gets really ugly, because this indictment seems to put journalism itself in the crosshairs, and it looks like it's been done on purpose. Because if we accept that Assange is a journalist, then this indictment becomes a full frontal assault on the First Amendment, and we as journalists have no choice but to defend him on those counts in order to defend ourselves and our institution. But Julian Assange is a hacker, not a journalist. So what?
You're the hack, Chuck.
No,
so
Chuck.
Close.
So that's a hack. You're a hack, Chuck. Julian Assange is a journalist. That's why he wins awards, and that's why you get a paycheck from the military-industrial complex. Do you see the difference? Julian Assange actually tells the truth about war. That's not a hack. You're a hack. You're getting those... He started out at the beginning saying this is journalism, and then he ends by saying he's a hacker. Correct me if I'm wrong. You just contradicted yourself within 60 seconds. And you did it with a smug look on your face that only a true dumb guy has. Chuck Todd, I'm willing to say, dumber than me. And
is the Department of Justice trying to make it seem like he was acting in some sort of journalistic enterprise? Maybe it's because they believe it's a just cause, or maybe it's because they're trying to use a controversial figure to smear journalists and journalism as a malignancy, or to force us to take WikiLeaks more seriously as a journalistic enterprise for something that happened in 2016. The enemy of my people, to quote someone in particular. I know what I see when I read between the lines. How about you?
What do you see? You don't even make sense. What you just said makes no sense. Well, because you said he's doing journalism, just like the Washington Post did with the Pentagon Papers. Except he's not a journalist, he's a hacker. So he doesn't deserve... Like, talk about twisting yourself in knots. Like, whoever was the intern who wrote this or the producer who wrote this for him to read, which is what he's doing, he's reading this off a teleprompter. He didn't write it. He's a fucking idiot. Someone wrote this for him and he's reading it. It doesn't even make sense. Does that even make sense, what he said?
I think, and then he was like, they're trying to say Julian's a journalist so that he can attack all journalists. So now...
So if you say Julian Assange is a journalist, then you can attack all journalism because we're going to get smeared by association with him being but he's not. He's a hacker. Well, you just said he did journalism. And by the way, I pointed out, it doesn't matter. There is no special protection under the First Amendment for journalists. The First Amendment protects everybody. There's no special carve-out, you have to prove you're a journalist, because nobody gets a license to be a journalist, just like nobody gets a license to be a fucking comedian or a musician. You just go do it. That's why I can do journalism better than CNN and certainly better than this fucking tool. Because you don't need to have a certification to do journalism. That's why they wrote the First Amendment. It protects everybody. And that's why Chuck Todd doesn't even know what the First Amendment is. He doesn't even know what journalism is. And of course, that's the guy Andy Lack picked to be the head of the face of NBC News. Of course, that's the tool the military-industrial complex picked to be the face of NBC News. Of course, this is the guy who doesn't even understand what journalism is. He doesn't even understand what the fuck he's talking about. Wait a
minute, Jimmy. I just before you move that, I just want to say that is a perfect image of smugnerant.
Yes, this is smugnerant.
But he also revealed why he's doing this ridiculous convoluted dance. He goes, because then it's legitimizing WikiLeaks for something they published in 2016. Anyway, then you would be shown for the real frauds that you are because you backed Hillary Clinton. Yeah. You went after Bernie Sanders. The Pied Piper, it all points to you as being part of that. So now you are really you're not a journalist, Chuck Todd.
Of course he's not a journalist.
By the way, SNL,
he's a propagandist. He's not a journalist.
SNL is in lockstep with MSNBC.
And that's why SNL sucks.
They called Julian Assange, according to one of our top chats.
SNL sucks so bad. They're like the Daily Show.
He was a troll.
SNL sucks so bad. They're the ones who had Trump on during the campaign. Do you remember that? SNL brought Trump on during the campaign for ratings. They're the biggest pieces of shit. SNL, such a fucking
when Julian got
I mean, of course, it's on NBC. Of course, they're going to suck. And of course, they're not radical. They're not anti-establishment. They are the boat. That's why SNL doesn't rock the boat. They're the fucking boat. That's why the Daily Show, what a waste. Telling me that it's okay to be corrupt in the United States. It's okay for Barack Obama to take money from Wall Street. What? That's crazy. You got a guy who knows less about America than anybody else in America to come tell us about American politics? Of course they chose that guy. And he's a decent comedian. He doesn't know shit about America or American politics or how it works or why. He doesn't even understand the influences of who's writing the shit that he's reading off his own teleprompter. He doesn't even know what the fuck he's talking about.
Well, this is the thing. When the corporate media doesn't just own the news, they own all of the entertainment industry. So it's not a coincidence that comedians that are neoliberal, that aren't really willing to talk about the things that you talk about, that I talk about, that we all talk about. That's why there's a handful of actual progressive comedians, and we all have to do shows in our garages or our one-bedroom apartments or whatever, because they're not going to allow us to say this. We're not going to get hired by NBC or Comedy Central. No one's going to give us jobs to say this. We have to. And if you're going to do late night TV on the networks, you can make fun of Trump's hair and this, that, and the other.
Oh, that's so over the top. Wow.
You can,
pushing the envelope there.
Man, you can be literally Stephen Colbert and push CIA talking points when Tulsi Gabbard is on your show.
Which is what he did.
Because the media controls the message of everything.
That's right.
You think, I mean, you see billboards fly by you on a bus that Russia. They know how to plant the seeds on every layer of society to get everybody into this groupthink. That's how they do it. And it's so you watch. So Julian Assange gets arrested and they do he's a Bond villain. That's the first sketch they did on the Saturday after he got arrested. That was Saturday Night Live's first sketch. This is the cutting edge. So immediately they're planning he's a villain. So anyone's like, I don't really pay that much attention. Oh, he must be that villain guy. Or isn't he one of those Russian guys? That's just what they do. They just plant the seeds, and it's all bullshit. From Chuck Todd to those morons at NBC that do SNL, which are all Ivy League kids.
Yes, they're all from freaking Harvard.
Oh, you know what? I hear Ivy League kids are really funny.
If you want to see...
That's what I hear.
I mean, that's why Conan's show is so fun. Who fucking watches that show? Who watches
Conan.
that show?
It's a.
Now he's wearing a jean jacket to, I guess,
and a
to connect
tie.
with the kid. He wears a jean jacket and a tie every night. Instead of a suit coat, he wears a jean jacket and a tie. And he still comes out and people cheer for 5 minutes, like as if something's happening. It's just a mediocre guy who doesn't have much comedy talent standing on a stage wearing a jean jacket, and people can't stop screaming for fucking 3 minutes. And you know what? His show is only 20 minutes long, 22 minutes long now, and he spends least 2 or 3 minutes of people screaming every night. It's like you wouldn't rather put content in there. You'd rather stand there while people fucking scream for no reason. That is, I don't know. This is such a pet peeve of mine. I know it doesn't matter to anybody else. It's my own pet peeve.
I just want to go back to, we were talking about Stephen Colbert, and when he had the Colbert Report, we were crazy about it. It was the best.
It was one of the best.
It was so dynamic, and I couldn't understand, his talent about being able to stay in character and ask those hard-hitting questions with other with conservatives across the table. It was fascinating. And what did they do? This guy who was really knocking it out of the ballpark. Then he's now diluted and went to the dark side.
And he became the character he used to play.
Yes.
He became the guy pushing those talking points instead of the guy making fun of someone pushing those talking points. He's just the guy pushing those talking points now. That's who Stephen Colbert became. It's disgusting.
And I remember when they had that rally, right? All those people showed up.
Set for Sanity by him and Jon Stewart.
And really what that, thanks for reminding me what the name of it was. What that was really about, hey, everybody, keep it cool. Don't go crazy. That really was what that rally turned out to be.
Yeah.
They didn't want us to become revolutionary. They didn't want us to have a bunch of people coming together for Medicare for all, coming together for a government that represents the people, coming together to fuck the banks who stole our future.
Yes.
That was a rally for nothing. Jon Stewart had a rally for absolutely fucking nothing.
That was by design.
Yes.
Because you remember when Jon Stewart took over The Daily Show, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were doing some really great hard-hitting stuff. And I remember seeing regular journalists going, they did a survey back in 2001 or 2 or something like that young people are getting their news from The Daily Show. And the journalists were like, this is an outrage. And I was like, no, your news sucks so bad that they have to go to a comedian.
That's right.
So then what did they do? Oh, Jon Stewart has way too much influence. We better dial that shit back. Buy him up. Get him quiet. Get a milquetoast idiot in there. Have him have some bullshit rally. That's what they have done throughout time.
That rally was supposed to be his moment to expose the system.
Yes.
And he was supposed to say, this is the real problem and this is what we have to do. And instead what he did was, we just need to let each other in traffic more. Remember that? He was like, well, that's everybody. It's got to be nicer to each other. You what?
What? That's your
Even
stance.
Bill Maher was discussed. That's how fucked up it was. Even Bill Maher made fun of him. He's like, hey, if you're going to have a rally, make it about something. That was Bill Maher's critique. So let me about ChuckTodd. Here's what, just to remind you, this is what a real journalist says. This is Glenn Greenwald. He says, when you see professional media figures decreeing that Julian Assange is not a journalist, compare how much corruption and criminality by the world's most powerful factions that they've exposed in their work to how much Assange has exposed. The contrast will tell you all you need to know. So just look at what ChuckTodd has exposed and what Julian Assange has exposed. Also, the question is Julian Assange a journalist? As though it's a credentialed, licensed status like being a doctor or a lawyer. It's deceitful when they say that. That's what he's saying. It's deceitful. It is deceitful for ChuckTodd to go, he's not a journalist. It's about the First Amendment. Journalists don't have any special protections. The First Amendment press freedom protects an activity available to everyone, not just a designated priesthood called journalists. And ChuckTodd doesn't understand that. Why? Because he's the dumbest guy on television doing the news, and that's why he was chosen, because he doesn't understand this. If he understood this, he wouldn't have been chosen. Do you get that? Do you get that ChuckTodd and Rachel Maddow and Chris Hayes, they're chosen. And sometimes they choose wrong. They chose Phil Donahue, and then he told the truth about the Iraq War, and they had to fire him. And they chose Ed Schultz, and he told the truth about Bernie Sanders, so they had to fire him. So that happens sometimes. But most of the time, they hire a guy like Chris Hayes. They tell him, don't say anything nice about Bernie Sanders, and he says, okay. So I just wanted to show you, again, one more time, this is from the Washington Post, to talk about, just to rebut ChuckTodd's ridiculousness that Julian Assange is a hacker and not a journalist. Until now, the Justice Department distinguished between government employees who leak classified information and outlets that publish it. Until now. The Obama administration also reportedly considered bringing charges against Assange, but ultimately Obama's Justice Department decided prosecuting publishers or leaked information would be a bridge too far. That was the right decision. Although the Espionage Act does not require a line between leaker and publisher, the First Amendment is interpreted by the courts does. So I just wanted to show you that again, just to show you how wrong ChuckTodd is. But it's weird. He got it right in the first half of his report, and then he completely contradicted his own self. Isn't that weird? Mm-hmm. That's the kind of mental gymnastics a hack like ChuckTodd does without even thinking twice about it. Isn't that wild? Hey, we just added St. Louis and Honolulu to our live tour schedule. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all the tickets for all our live shows. We might be coming to your town. Go check right now at jimmydorecomedy.com. And if you like the show and want to support it, become a premium member. You can become a patron or through PayPal, or go right to jimmydorecomedy.com and become a premium member. That's the best way. We'll see you at a live show.